and welcome. Unfortunately, I just recorded 13 minutes of muted microphone, so here I am. Quickly getting back into it, as I was saying in those 13 minutes that were not recorded audio, I realized I was watching this one and this one for a reason. So I was just like, what am I gonna watch? I keep watching things and just nothing's like really resonating, and events of today got me thinking about Mount Gurnar again, and I was like, maybe I should check out these videos. So I didn't want to start at like this one. I'm not the biggest fan of this one anymore. I mean, I think it's cool and a good intro, but it's also like heavily wrong. Lots of things wrong in it. So like, it is what it is. But I just didn't feel like watching that one, this one, whatever. I mean, I find it interesting, but like at some point, I was more interested in just like, okay, what do I want to watch? I want to watch the ones where I like really get into Gurnar. So I was like, this one's probably one. So I started here. Although it looks like there's some others leading into it, but I watched these ones, and then all these ideas started to pop in my head. I started watching this one too. Not on my YouTube though. Did not create views. Anyway, so in previous discussion, hopefully if you're watching this, I would recommend just go watch these ones at least. If you don't know what I'm talking about generally, there's a current that has a arrow shape here that comes out of the neck this way and fans across, essentially fans across, initially just goes across the whole region and fans out and creates the head of Sarastra. But then the currents start to fill the region with pressure, building like walls at the boundary that just kind of, because there's not enough pressure there, so it kind of slows down the current, builds just a wall that the back current behind it then gets more trapped in. So it starts doing more interesting things where it builds a mound here, and then it just currents just coming generally across from here to this mound to like the furthest point. But then that current, which then is flowing in this arrow shape generally, also in from the sides in these ways, but more so this way initially with this arrow, where this arrow builds this mound, and then over time it causes the mound to deflect the current over here, where it goes out over here, but then the storm that's involved in this moves over here, which then influences other ways, creating these things, and then the storm moves down here, and lightning strikes into Gurnar with just a vast emission of energy to stabilize this vortex storm that's in the area that discharges, creates Gurnar in the process of all of these flows that go this way, exit, but also hit the wall, bend and deflect, which then the current's coming down this way goes over here, goes over this way. So it creates a boundary where this wraps around, which then creates this backstop as well. And then it bends around, goes in here, and wraps around Gurnar clockwise. Some of it going up this way, creating like fingers that hold this boundary and hold a boundary where this current goes around it this way instead of going this way. And then it also goes over here, but the storm is pushing it that way, keeping it kind of going towards the western boundary. So all these things are going on, but I started looking at, like, for instance, I was like, okay, maybe I can think about these petals some more. I don't know what to make of them, and then as anytime I like try to look at the petals, I'm like, oh, some weird things going on here. This one maybe is starting to get a little more defined, somewhat, with that thing going on. But then this one's pretty nice, clean looking. Okay, so then I start getting like maybe nice and clean looking, nice and like a spew. But then we run into this, and it really doesn't come back all that well, like somewhat, if you, especially if you just kind of disregard that. It kind of goes this way, this way, this way, this way. Somewhat having it, but then again, it fades away over here into more complex structures. But so, generally, this current goes around this way, hits this resistance, goes this way, wraps around, but it also goes down. And I realized here is strongly suggestive. If we zoom out, it kind of looks like physically a current, like comes in, deflects off of it and goes up this way, and then goes through here. And then the second current goes off of this point down this way as like a less of a bend. This one really bends and goes up here. This one goes this way and goes down here, down through here. But so I wanted to look at Gurnar closely because there's first. Let's start with some things real quick. I'll just go through boom, boom, boom. Some things that I was talking about before I realized I was still muted because I was watching videos and was like, well, I'll just mute myself. While streaming, I've been streaming again a little bit. But this thing, in watching these two videos, I was like, oh yeah, this is there. Okay, there's like a boundary here, boundary here, boundary here, boundary here. It's more of a square than a circle, but it's kind of like maybe approaching a circle with a nucleus. So there's some, maybe with a secondary boundary and some things going on there as well. But generally a circle, some type of eddy seems to have happened here that involved an actual nucleus similar to Osam Hill over here, where there's a current coming this way, this current coming this way at this boundary, and then the current coming back around this way, but generally at this boundary, creating these two sides of Osam Hill, and then this one separating and wrapping around this way into this negative to the positive. In a similar way, it looks like Osam Hill is like this thing where currents are generally going around it and creating a shape. Maybe not like purely an eddy, but then I noticed though, like if we go here, down here, over here, over here, over here, this here, if we follow instead this way, up here, notice there's this thing going across here, which then maybe goes down here. It's not quite as clear, especially there. But then there's this that continues. It's relatively a circle with a nucleus, a core, and then that circle has like a secondary boundary here that's kind of reminiscent of an ammonite. Maybe another one here even that like abuts the nucleus of this overall, but overlaps this one where this circle actually pretty much goes to there. Like actually. So like this one's outer boundary reaches this nucleus. This one's outer boundary reaches this nucleus, so they're kind of interactive. Whereas this one's outer boundary does not. It reaches this one's outer boundary. And then it looks like maybe another one there might have even formed. It's hard to say with all the like build up around it. I'm not sure what's going on here exactly, but notable. Also, there's this current here that goes this way and then goes in here. So there's a current, a cross current generally. Like this current's going out this way, la la la, but some of it just goes in and crosses through and then goes up this way and then actually goes in. And same for here. Some of it goes across and goes into here. Like the last moment that it can go in through this one, it enters from here. And the first moment where it comes in this way, it goes up this way, over this way, splitting, but it also split, like there's one current going this way, one current going up this way. But if we look here, there's a current here that goes generally back to like the center of this, to that region. I don't know which then seems to go back this way and like connect through whatever's going on here, although that's just a road. Not even necessarily connect, but just be like a nucleus type region that got built around because of the circumstances of the currents, that then had this other, like, oh, maybe this right there, this subtle current flowing this way around and essentially out this way into this current. So there's this current flowing around it at this boundary because this current's going this way. So it holds a boundary for the current to wrap around it. And as it does, it basically, like if this current were to go straight across to this entry point, because there's this cross current, I guess the circumstances were that this current was just not strong enough. Like if it was strong enough, it would just not give a shit. It would just be like, boop, go right over. What cross current? Just boop, like a laser beam. But if it was a little more subtle, relatively like more balanced with this current, it couldn't just go straight because it would bend with it. So essentially it went into it, and notice like the boundaries of this current coming around this way. Notably also pushing in and then out, in, out, in, out, in. Ooh. Although that one's a little not so, like if there's a current wrapping around here, like it makes sense that some of it's going off, but that's a little sharp, that last one. But as this current's coming around, there's these boundaries of this other current going this way that this river is within as that boundary. And so when there's a current like wrapping around, running into resistance here, it's not putting as much pressure. Like right here, there's not as much pressure, which maybe is even how this current's able to like get some momentum to go through. Like it can't just like branch off maybe as easily. But so like right here at this bend, if we follow it, or let's just go back to the, yeah, here we go. This way, this way, this way. Here, and then here it turns in almost like it has to. And then here though, like if there's a current wrapping around, going over here and wrapping around, like at its furthest point that it's going to be able to influence this thing, it pretty much redirects it to split it. Like it goes this way, it goes this way. So there's two paths right at that boundary. And then here maybe is possibly related to this boundary where it splits again. And maybe this one splits at a related position even. It's pretty close where it kind of like goes that way and this way in the shape. But so, anyway, cool, very cool, notable, but let's move on. These currents ultimately make it over, like, and start pushing a boundary, and then up, over, and then make it into the entry point. Like, this is the actual entry point. Just kind of like a chakra. Even looks like it's got a little arrow. It's got an arrow. This mountain. This way. Oh my god. Current goes this way though. This way, this way, this way. Divides, goes this way, and then it kind of like remerges. Looks like this kind of fades even. Didn't quite make it. Like it was a recessive current. Maybe some aspect of what drives there, and like the hand of God. Pillars of creation, hand of God. This thing, and other places like the snakehead where there's a dominant side and then a recessive side where more current is flowing through one side than the other side, maybe, and it also has like a shorter length than the dominant side. Like it's maybe like a thumb, and then like the fingers actually make it through. Oh, that goes that way. Interesting. That must have been filled with pressure of things like a lake, some kind of body. I mean, I'm thinking there was water involved in the process enough where was pulling to a degree, and like actual current flows of water, like etching. So maybe it filled this with like water on top of it. That, like, as this current flowed in, it went into this region as a whole, but it kind of faded away in that it went this way because it just joined the rest of the water here, which maybe is why there's a body of water like this, almost like a nucleus of it. But in so doing, maybe it like sought a venting location, so it went over here and just created this, although this is a lake, or a dammed lake, but it still went that way, and probably still created like a region for there to be dammed like that. Got up here. Oh my god. mountain is incredible. Okay, let's keep looking. So it comes over this way, and then a current comes this way, I know the water's going the other way now. I know. It's due to pressures, it's going the opposite way though, like uphill. Same thing here where maybe like this cuts across, and then actually just the way this is maybe reflects where these are like colliding and just pushing a cleaner, what could have been a more clean boundary by the just variation in currents. Like more current is within this boundary than is within this boundary, than is within this boundary, than this one, but still, like, as we go up this way, we see changes over here, where it's just pushed in the opposite. Just creating some wobbliness and some structure. Over here we see the same. Which is definitely reflective of if a current's wrapping around, it's just going to keep getting, like, it wants to go straight. So it's going to go, at all times, it's going to go straight. But it's going to hit resistance and bend. Hit resistance and bend. Hit resistance and bend. Hit resistance and bend. Hit, bend, and just create these, like, indentations around the ring that maybe are dependent on, like, here it kind of gets straighter. Like, I'm thinking like this stretch is somewhat straight, and from here where there's something going on here, straight, something going on here, and then relatively straight. I mean, maybe not. This is pretty, maybe there, relatively straight. Over here, it's hard to say. It's almost like this one is the main things coming this way and then go around. Skirt! Hit there. Come in there. And this current's going this way, this way, this way, this way. And it just keeps its momentum going through here. And has enough momentum to make it end divides because of the pressure. So it just can't, the whole current can't make it, but it has enough momentum that some of the current can make it. It's almost like, that reminds me, I was talking about how it's like this flame is kind of wrapped like a coil. It made me think of something over here, like this right here. This looks kind of wrapped like a coil right here. I don't know if I'm just imagining things. I was thinking like this connected to over here. Like there's a literal flame here. Not literal, but not literal. Dude, that's not what literal means. There's a flame here in this, in a like manner as over there, although I don't see the coiling shape here. I'm not sure why this flame would connect to the ammonite shape over here through a coil. I just thought I'd mention it before I forget it entirely. Okay, unfortunately, I wasted 13 minutes or whatever recording silence. Me just talking like that, baby. And it's getting late, so I'm gonna probably try to end relatively soon. But this current goes across and makes it into this point, whereas this one does not. This one has to make it into the next point it can make it in, which is over here, around the bend. Because the momentum carries things that way. I wonder if like this space over here, like it's kind of narrow here, so there's probably a higher pressure preventing other cross currents somewhat in this region. Like only the one that's really part of this main current essentially going in could make it. So over here it just couldn't, but as it opened up more space it could. And this one goes in there, this one goes there. I'm just not sure why it would choose there, if you will. Like why that's the optimal point for this current to go in. North Pole, South Pole? Like, are those two poles? Current goes in one pole. Goes in another pole. Seemingly the same type of current. Which then fills like this portion of the crystalline looking structure of Gurnar. This one fills this portion. This one fills this portion. From here and here, I guess. And this fills over here, producing four sides. It's just basically pushing things together and bringing denser materials to the center, as well as layering them in ways that are as Gurnar presently is, I guess. If this current comes across, goes this way, comes across, it's almost like it goes over, has a bump, or has a big bump, goes over, one, goes over, has a bump, two, goes over, has a bump, three, maybe not so much here, but then here goes over, bump, one, and then inverse over, bump, one. Just from a chakra standpoint, I feel like it's possible something of that nature is going on chakra-wise. It goes over here and just squeezes on in. Shoo-be-doo-wop. So this current's going this way. Around. Running into this current coming this way, so it just goes back. Creating that nucleus, the negative nucleus, opposite to the hexagons. I don't know if it's like precisely an opposite. Not sure how I would do that. Maybe mirroring. Like if I mirrored this and layered them, if like the structure around it would stay relatively overlapping, or if it's kind of shifted to mirror it. I don't really want to open Photoshop and do that right now. It's almost like this was trying to get in. Got in here. Just came all the way from the end of this. The last connection point gets in here before it goes like around it. And then this one goes up to this current that's going across here, holding that boundary probably. As that goes up there, runs into resistance, it basically causes more current to go this way. Which then probably runs into resistance, which causes more current to go this way. Which makes it in. Interacts with this current coming across too. And so like that region's pressures. So I guess it's something of that nature where like the forward pressure, the current's moving and then it runs into pressure, and it's then because it's got all this pressure in front of it because of the current that moved in front of it that wasn't there before, it now has like different paths it can take because of the pressure in front of it. So then it starts to break off in locations that like go to inlets over here that it like, because there's a swirling eddy, like it needs some kind of encouragement through the eddy. So it got forced through by back pressures in front of it that allowed it to get through. Perhaps, kind of what I'm thinking. Creating like a channel from here to the center, not just like swirling in and slowly creating a like vortex spiral that just like swirls in like a river's channels that just swirl in. Like it doesn't do that. It does like things of this nature where it's got a current going and got and just branches off and things. So between this current that goes to the top and this current that goes to the side, which also is going relatively down at this point, is this region. Which means maybe this current is going like this way. Pushing in that boundary there. Creating that circle, but also draining into here and just going through. So it's not like fully creating a circle. And instead it just bends off of this and goes down this way. It goes over this way. But generally across this way. While this one, like anything that doesn't quite make it, just starts to branch off a bit, enough to interact with this one's current going this way. That goes more this way though. along the boundary, shaping this boundary to be like that. I haven't thought about other locations to see if they would create similar circumstances where, like, I don't know if there's other currents into the mountain that are that close to each other, though. They're pretty adjacent, like, relatively. These are close, but they're not as, like, strong looking. These look pretty strong. Like, in terms of just the actual volume that's flowing now. But this was flowing more like the whole area, where it's more like the center of the current has this divot that's created. It's not like the totality of where it was flowing, so there's a boundary where it generally branched off there. Put that indentation. Went through like this width, probably like right here, two over here. Kind of like a snakehead, actually. Dominant current going this way, wrapping around, possibly even going out and across, and like re-entering the current. Generally re-entering the current, but across maybe, to, in a way where it interacted with this location and caused an eddy. I'm pretty sure this is natural. It looks pretty natural. I don't know why they would do this. But, you know, people do things that are for reasons I don't understand, and that doesn't mean... Let's see. What is it? Narsin... Just say man-made. Let's see if that brings anything up. It's a man-made lake. Okay. Used as a reservoir. '15th century poet. Man-made lake. That doesn't mean the terrain wasn't optimal for it. That's tough. That might be time to stop then, because I almost need to figure out like what happened here to really interpret the currents. Although this would have happened then too, I would imagine, and it looks like it goes back to here, and even it maybe shows like a larger width. I don't know if that's happenstance. It might be like a larger width, and then out further was even less flow rate. Greatest flow rate, the secondary, and then a larger kind of one. But it seems to have a current flowing off it over this way, right to here. That branches over this way. somewhere. Possibly dominant. Recessive then? I would suggest this is going this way. Could that happen if a current goes this way, crosses over? I mean, it kind of looks like it physically bends more, or it goes more that way. Because there's probably a lot of inlet current. It just holds a boundary, a hard boundary that made it bend more. Flop, boop, boop. If there's a current flowing right here, let's see. Something like that. No, that's good. Let's start there. Let's say right there. Like along that boundary, generally. Do we cross any divides, splits in the current or anything? That is where that goes in. Like if there's a current that's like turning well and then going up, like it needs another turning current to go up even further. Like a torus, like a rolling, like the flame was rolling over here with these structures that suggest like a coiling. This is also coiling. And so maybe because all the energy that was going more so this way just kept going that way up to that limit, and that's as far as it could influence, and then boom, boom. Those two are able to break off for all of those reasons and more, probably. It's been a while since I looked at this mountain closely. It's nice to look at it again. I love Mount Grenard. It's so epic. Like, what a work of art. In every way. Every way. Not even just geological, but geological. Wow, I think I did kind of provide some, like we can definitely see that there with that one. Like that, and the snake, just the snake head. Eyeball. Oh my god. Or maybe this is like the jaw even. Maybe just current went this way and this way to get in. Although, like if it went this way to get in, I'm not sure why it wouldn't. got in there somewhat. Whoa. Like this goes here, and then it bends, goes this way. But then this one that's inside goes straight up and out of it. Whatever exactly is going on there. It's got a temple. Whoa. Okay, I should go. I should go. I love you, Malgrenar. I'll see you soon. Oh, hi guys. I'm still here, huh? Anything else? Alright, I'll be back sooner or later. Thanks for hanging out. It was a pleasure. Till next time. Peace.